Hello YouTube, Desert Engineering here, with the newest version of the Arduino smartwatch. So, I've completely remade the old one into this new version, which has most of the stuff I want besides some other parts which I'll explain later. So, I've completely redesigned the front face of it. Now I have the buttons down here on the bottom, the screen up here without having through hole on the screen. I removed the little pins for it, and I used wires instead. And then I have a LED over here. And as you can see, the potentiometer and the buttons have been moved from this side to this side, as well as the screen being moved a bit over from where it used to be. And that is also because there is now an audio cord right here, which you can plug in things like headphones into. So, plug that back in. Then if we go over here, you can see there's a completely new speaker here. And down here is the power port for charging. And then over here is the Arduino Nano's programming port. So, with this version, I got rid of pretty much all of the pins. I had to get a new processor because the old one got wet and it doesn't work anymore. Well, not for I2C communications, which I kind of need for the screen. So, that's right here. I used hot glue to keep the entire thing together. I plan on making a case out of aluminum later. The rest of it's on the software side, so I'll get to that in a second. Now, as far as the software on this new device goes, it's pretty much the same except for a few new features. So, if I go over here, of course there's the invert, and with the new version of the watch, I don't know how, but I fixed the old problem, so now I can invert, and then set back to normal, and I don't have to reset the screen. Now, if I go over here to RGB, if I press that once, it'll play through this speaker. Well, depending on what speaker you have set up. I'll tell you about setting it up later. And then it'll flick this red, green, and blue. The blue is kind of dim because blue is a color that requires a lot of power to be created. Now, if I go over one, there's S, which is port 1, and A, which is port 2. S meaning speaker, A meaning auxiliary. So, I can set it to this. And then I can set it to the speakers over there by going over to port 2. So, now, with the new version of the watch, the old resetting screen thing is kind of useless, considering the screen is pretty much fine all the time. Oh yeah, that tone, well, is the reset tone, and that'll play through either one. And so, one of the problems is that because I got rid of one of the problems, it seems like a new problem has arisen. So, now what happens is sometimes when I have it on my wrist, it'll randomly reset. Let me see if I can get to do it. No, I'll have to press on the back to get to reset. So there's a reset button right there. If I press the battery just right, then it'll reset. Now, what happened before is the time would get reset, and someone said I should get an atomic clock module for this. I decided that no, even though that is a pretty cheap part, you know, around 99 cents, I figured it would be better just to do some programming. So, what I programmed it to do is I figured out about this thing called EEPROM, which I didn't know was a thing that the Arduino had. And so, what I'm doing is every single time a second is counted off, it's saving that to the Arduino's like hard memory, and then it is recovering that if it reboots. So, as you can see, the time is 10:22. If I set it to say, I don't know, 6 p.m. And then what it's doing is it's constantly going to be setting 6 p.m. And then it'll be setting 6:03. Now reset, if I can. And this is why the watch is so fidgety. Well, I will be back. Okay, so here is what happens when it resets. Of course, it sets to 6:03, and then 40 seconds. So, reset. 6:03, 44 seconds. Well, 43 it started out on. So, it'll set itself back to the original time. However, this can be a problem if, say, it loses power, and then you bring it back like a day later. It's going to be different. So that's all for the newest version of the Arduino smartwatch. I'll be building a new one, hopefully soon, or maybe upgrading this one. Bye. Oh, the back button doesn't top the camera. Good to know.